If you're an intermediate level Aikido student, or certainly advanced level Aikido student, you must have heard the word Zanshin at this point. So a lot of people hear this word Zanshin and they do their very best to implement it. But what I see a lot of times when they're trying to implement Zanshin is simply just a pose at the end of the technique. Kind of this fancy and impressive pose. Or some people just pause at the end of the technique. That's not quite what it is. Zanshin is more of a state that you carry before, during, and after every technique. Let's dive into it. So first of all, let's take a look at the word Zanshin. So Zang is one of the readings for nokori, or remaining. All right? And Shin is the mind or the heart. So I like to define it loosely. The English translation that I would use is sustained mindfulness. So the easiest way to start training with this is indeed the end of the technique. To, instead of just throwing somebody and then fixing your belt, looking at the clock and getting ready for them to come back up again and grab your wrist again. Instead of that, follow through with the throw. And then take a moment to really settle into it. And be mindful of this movement, be mindful of this connection that just went from a literal physical connection to now maybe you're not connected physically anymore. So that's the best way to approach this idea of Zanshin. And then later we want to take this into not just after the technique, but then before the following technique, and then during the technique. So a state of mindfulness through the whole 4 throws. And then later through the whole hour, later through the whole 90 minutes of training, or whatever your dojo has for a training session. We do 90 minutes. And then later, even for life, right? So this is a big job, a big endeavor, but I think it's worthy of our effort. So let's break it down some more. A lot of people, when you say, now, remember Zanshin, they go, oh yeah, and they get serious. It's not about looking serious either. And it's not about looking at your uke. So let's talk about it in another way now. Imagine if Aikido were a language, which I think it is in one sense. Imagine that every throw was a sentence, isn't it? For me, it's very easy to imagine that. Most dojos we do 4 times. We throw our partner 4 times, then they throw us 4 times. So without Zanshin, it's like you're saying 4 either repetitive sentences or totally unrelated sentences. It's just 4 sentences. But if you use this principle of Zanshin, it's more like a paragraph, right? So what makes the difference between 4 random sentences and a paragraph with 4 sentences in it? See what I'm saying? So anyway, let's break it down to pre-contact or pre-technique and mid-technique and post-technique. So we want to have this awareness before the technique. So how you stand when uke approaches. We don't want to be like, come attack me, or like, you're going to attack me. We want a certain type of mindfulness where we can be centered, and we want to keep some shock absorption in our body, so the knees loose and shoulders loose, lower back loose. Hey, sorry to interrupt the video, but some of you have been asking how you can get a copy of my book, The Teacher. The book includes topics such as from horse riding to Budo, the Japan experience, back home, building intuition, attracting new students to Aikido, nonviolence in Aikido, leading by example, women in Aikido, arrogance, no to homogenization in Aikido, Aikido and distance teaching, body alignment, more. If you haven't yet purchased it and you'd like to, just head to leah-suzuki.com/book, or you can find that link in the description here on YouTube. The book is available in English and Italian. If you want it in Italian, you've got to go to Amazon. There's plenty of really cool photos. There's me when I first started Aikido, even before I got to Boston, which is where my first teacher is. Also, Takeda Shihan, Bill Gleason Sensei, my first teacher. And for those of you who might know him, Gary Small Sensei, taking ukemi long ago. Another of Takeda Shihan, Yamaguchi Sensei. All right. We've got a couple of me teaching seminars, of course. And then even one with me with explaining something with Shoto. This is in the No to Homogenization section. As I said, the link is in the description below. Just click on that, go to leah-suzuki.com/book and order yours. Let's get back to the video now. And we want to be regulating our breath, staying loose in all our joints so that we can absorb shock, staying loose in the shoulders, the knees, the lower back. And I find personally that I don't really like to look at anything or focus on anything. Now, a body worker for the 1984 Olympics, he's no longer with us. He was an exceptional body worker, John Harris. He taught me the term soft eyes. I had already been doing that for years. When I rode horses competitively and then doing Aikido, I used what I now call soft eyes. So I find that when I'm really in a high pressure situation, like I'm doing a demo or I'm doing a test, my breath changes a little bit. I guess it gets slower and more regulated. And also, I always found that my eyes kind of went out of focus. It was as if I switched on the peripheral vision for everything. Okay? So I don't focus on one thing or another, but that's just me. Let me know in the comments if you do that too. So this body worker who worked on Olympic athletes, he called that soft eyes. So I think that this will help you with Zanshin. If you're not already doing this, give it a try. It might sound weird, but imagine if your eyes were a camera. Imagine taking the focus, well, if you had a manual camera, taking the focus and just taking it a little bit out of focus. What would that do to you? What would that do to your mind? How would it feel? Would it be scary? So it's just like everything's going out of focus a little bit. Right now, while you're watching this video, put your consciousness on these fields of vision out here, to your right and your left, without looking over to your right and your left, right? Look straight ahead, but see what you can notice to your left and to your right without actually turning and looking. So right here where I am, without looking this way, and of course I'm always in this room so I know what's here, but still I can see a cabinet over here, and I can see a box of tissues over here, over there. All right, so see what you see. Now, that kind of vision that you're seeing, this direction and that direction, see if you can kind of carry that vision over into your front vision as well. All right? Next time you're training, try that. So practice it in your home and then try it with your technique next time. When I would look at Yamaguchi Sensei, Takeda Shihan, I never talked to them about this actually, so I'm not sure if they're doing this, but it looked to me like they also kind of don't really focus on one thing or another. By the way, I've met some uke who, when they take ukemi from me, even let's say, they come running at me and I turn just at the last minute and that sends them over here without taking a roll. And they're over here, they bend their knees, everything's great, but they look at me like this. They focus on my eyes or something. It's kind of interesting. Most people don't do that, but there are a few who do. And what I notice is when the person does that, they get light. they lose their center, right? So they kind of lost their Zanshin at that moment. So if you can keep soft eyes through your movement, whether you're taking ukemi or you're throwing, then this will really benefit you. Give it a try and let me know how it went. Then let's talk about during the technique. So, and mostly I'm talking about tori or nage through this video, but of course the same holds true for uke, as I just said earlier, about people who focus on nage's eyes. So during the technique, again, use this peripheral vision even in front of you. And this will help you to stay loose, and it'll help you adapt so that you can make adaptations and adjustments on a dime. If you've been watching my videos, you've probably noticed that I sometimes use Shoto, or short sword. I find that it helps students drop their shoulders, stop pushing, and really feel the technique. Right now, I have a limited number of these Suzuki signature Shoto available. They're made in Japan from premium Japanese white oak. They're engraved with my signature, and they're really beautifully balanced. Because of the lumber shortage in Japan, I was only able to get a small batch of them. So once these are gone, that's it for the time being. So if you'd like one, click the link below to reserve yours. During the checkout process, you'll be prompted to let me know which seminar you'll attend, and then I'll bring it right to you. Now let's get back to the video. And it will help you keep your mind on the big picture, so you don't get caught up in these details and needing to throw uke this way. I got to stay on my game plan. They did X, Y, and Z differently than I expected, but by God, I'm sticking with it. Right? No, you might need to make some adjustments and some adaptations because they move in a way you didn't expect. So if you keep Zanshin, this state of, it's like a moving meditation, this state of mindfulness, sustained mindfulness, you'll have a better chance of making the adaptations that are appropriate to your situation as your situation develops. Now, let's take a look at after the technique. So, especially if you're a teacher, I'm sure you have these students who, they throw the partner doesn't pop up immediately. They throw the partner, so now I have like 3/4 of a second to look at the clock, tuck my dogi in. Oh, now they're grabbing my wrist again. I do the second throw. This time I look over there at the teacher. What's the teacher doing? Oh, they're back at my wrist, right? So at the end of the technique is, as I said earlier, I think as a teacher, I think this is the easiest part to start with when you're teaching Zanshin, is to tell people, no, don't fix your belt, don't fix your hair while they're still getting up. Maintain your focus on uke. And by the way, when people fix their hair or fix their dogi, oftentimes it's just a nervous tic. So I've noticed that a lot. Yeah, I have one student whose hair sometimes goes in her eye. So that, like, I can see, of course, she needs to fix her hair because she's going like this and there's something in her eye. But we have a teenager who, every time he lifts his arms, he straightens his dogi. And it's not a small dogi. It's not coming out of his belt. He's just a little self-conscious. So we have to get rid of these nervous tics. And it stands to reason that if you can exercise this mindfulness at the end of your technique, then you already have the first part taken care of, the pre-contact, right? You just maintain or sustain this mindfulness after you've thrown your partner. And then when they get up and they come back to grab your wrist, you're still there and you're still in this mindful state. Then during the technique, that's, I think, the hardest part to exercise Zanshin or mindfulness, because we get overpowered sometimes, or somebody trips when they're grabbing your wrist and you didn't expect that. But here's where it really, really benefits you. If you can practice that and start to master that, it'll really benefit you. So let's go over some details. At the end of the technique, So I gave you, before the technique, I said avoid, tunnel vision, or maybe I said that during, for both actually. Don't just look right at the person, just see the big picture, and then staying loose. So after the technique, though, let me give you some details and some concrete points. So I find it helpful sometimes to exhale on the throw. Exhale, but make sure that you expand your spine upward and downward. So lengthen your spine, expand your chest. So on the throw, that's when we love to hunch over and we love to collapse our chest. And if we're exhaling, it's going to be even more tempting to do those things. So keep the expansion, even though you're exhaling and the hands are going down and you're throwing somebody. Another point, make sure to follow through. So a lot of people, when they get partway through the final step of the waza, then they want to stop. They don't follow through. So imagine a professional baseball player who just, well, you could bunt, right, if you know about baseball. So imagine, though, if the baseball player just tried to hit the ball rather than hitting through the ball. And you can substitute any other sport, hockey, for example. They don't just hit the puck. They follow through. So it's the same thing in Aikido. We have to not just, if you're doing shihonage, for example, don't just stop there. Follow through. And the best follow through is when you still have that expansion. So even if you're exhaling, keep the expansion. A good uke will not fall until you've completed the throw. So I remember when I went to Japan, and I was so shocked. I remember Tenshinage, for example, and I'm training with guys 10 years older than me, but I was a white belt still. They're black belts. And I'm shaking. I'm working so hard, pushing and pushing, right? Like we do when we're white belts. And my uke were like basically doing a back bend, but still not falling because I wasn't following through. So they demanded, their ukemi demanded that I follow through to the very end of the throw. And during the follow through, it's not just about pushing, it's maintaining the alignment, the integrity, the expansion all the way to the very, very, very end. So, it was really challenging for me. So, let's take some examples other than Tenshinage. Ikkyo also. Have you noticed, if you have a really good uke, then you go just part way through, and then like this almost fall, but then they pop back up because you stopped. You didn't follow through. Let me give you some more how-tos or some tips. Get into this mindfulness frame. Take your eyes offline, so to speak, and try to loosen yourself. Loosen your shoulders. If you're doing katate dori or ryote dori, loosen the shoulders and imagine that your forearms are kind of squishy like that. Okay, so offer that. Then afterwards, keep a presence, so to speak, and keep your mind on uke, even when they fell. Also, this is real simple, real concrete. Keep your stomach facing uke's stomach after they've fallen. This will help a lot, actually. So all of these techniques, ikkyo, iriminage, whatever they are, think of them like paragraphs, not 4 random sentences. Let me give you a few more daily assignments here. When you're back on the mat, whether you're a teacher or a student, if you want to get better at Zanshin, which will help your Aikido overall, try some slow repetitions. Don't talk or analyze in between throws. Keep moving. Do all 4 throws, and then do all 4 ukemi, and then all 4 throws. I know that a lot of Western students that I've had, they like to analyze. after 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 throws, they want to talk about it. Well, how did that third one I think was good, right? Don't do that, right? You can analyze later or maybe on a different day. Try one day of 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, making paragraphs and paragraphs and paragraphs and stories and stories and stories to tell each other. Another way to say this peripheral vision thing, think about a wide angle lens that's slightly out of focus. All right? So, daily training tips for you. Slow repetitions without interruptions. Think of paragraphs. The next tip, the second tip, wide angle gaze, slightly out of focus. Ending every waza with a soft posture and a meditative state. And then the breath training. I like to breathe in through my nose, I think, and breathe out through my mouth. Yeah, sometimes I throw that way. And take the breath down into your belly. So, in conclusion, Zanshin isn't really something that you just simply add to your training. It's what remains when everything unnecessary is removed. It's what remains when all the fancy stuff is gone. It's the essence of what you're doing. And it's the paragraphs instead of random, disjointed sentences. I hope you found today's video helpful, interesting, inspiring. Thank you so much for tuning in with me. Check out my seminars schedule. I've got a lot of different seminars coming up in 2026. I'll be teaching in Japan and Taiwan and the UK and Ireland, Los Angeles, of course. Just go to leah-suzuki.com/seminars. And I hope I get to train with you somewhere at one of these seminars. Bye-bye.